Okay, welcome back to members of 121 Community Church in Grapevine, Texas, and our brand new study. We're going to take a look at aesthetics for a while here. We're going to take a break from John Frame. We're going to look at Samara Reine's first novel, She Died, Then Showed Me. And I want to make a few preliminary comments before we get started on chapter 1 here. First of all, what we have discovered is that existentialism as a philosophy morphed in the 20th century. It went through a radical change. Existentialism changed from being a philosophical structure of ideas. Existentialism became encased in aesthetics. And rightfully so. And it's not just my opinion. You'll find many lectures on YouTube that support this same position. And it began with a very prominent figure in history, Ingmar Bergman. Bergman gave us existentialism encased in the aesthetics of film. And I've reviewed many of Bergman's films on this channel, because I recognize the Lord has revealed to me that theological truth and aesthetics are necessarily paired to each other. They are both two sides of truth. And our own scriptures tell us this. We have a book of poetry in our scriptures called the Book of Psalms. And it is a book of poetry. So our own scriptures combine theological truth and aesthetics. So it's very appropriate to take up any aesthetics project that really speaks in an existential way. And that is the case here with Samara Reine's first novel, She Died, Then Showed Me. It is very definitely existentialism encased in aesthetics. In the written word this time. Now, whenever I reviewed Bergman, I did not just watch the film and then write a review. I obtained a copy of the transcript, and I went through it line by line, because Bergman packed so much existential thought into his film that you had to go through the transcript. You had to. No other way around it. And I found the same thing with Frame here, that she packs so much into this first chapter. And by the way, this is my first reading of the book, so I haven't read it, and now I'm going back through it a second time. This is my first reading. We're going to go through it together and discover what is unveiled together. This is my first reading. But I think, well, you know me. I'm a theologian, but I'm also an American poet. The Lord revealed to me many years ago the importance of coupling together theological ideas and theological truth with theological aesthetics and existential aesthetics. So take a look at the chart, and you'll notice that for me, truth is always triune. And we're going to take a look at chapter 1, and we're going to look at the power of truth, the power of betrayal, and the power of a foretold future. Let's go to block 1 and get started. Okay, block 1, the power of truth. We're introduced to the characters. We're introduced to Peyton Chase, a despairing daughter who has an occupation as a restorer of artwork. Harlow Chase is the deceased mother, and she was a celebrated, famous artist. And Sorensen Chase is the deceased father, who was very self-serving and practiced a very extravagant lifestyle. Now, these characters will take on deeper symbolic and existential significance as we progress through the novel. Now, the situational context for chapter 1. Peyton is meeting with the family attorney after her mother's death. She is informed that her father has depleted the family resources due to a very extravagant lifestyle, But more importantly, this is key, the father sold off the complete estate gallery of Harlow's most treasured work and replaced those originals with commissioned copies. And these originals represented Peyton's last lingering connection with her mother. So she suffers a devastating loss to hear this from the attorney, that the estate paintings have been replaced with commissioned copies. But Peyton confronts the attorney with the request, give me the truth. Truth for Peyton includes the cumulative facts of the current circumstance and its resultant conclusion, but also truth includes aesthetics, the truth of her mother's original work. So it's an aggregate whole of the estate collection as a whole that represented a deeper, more meaningful truth for Peyton. Because these were the paintings that her mother treasured that were not turned over for a public sale. They were within the estate, and they were treasured by and compiled into a gallery retained by her mother. Very, very important. The aggregate whole represented a deeper, more profound truth for her mother and consequently for Peyton Chase as well. Let's go on to block 2 and take a look at the power of betrayal. And we look at a legacy of copies. Peyton's father, Sorensen, sold off the gallery of original paintings by Harlow and replaced them with commissioned copies. And in this chapter, Peyton complains to her attorney saying, it's not the money, but how can I live without the paintings? For her, the most significant loss is the loss of her mother's original artwork, which cannot be replaced with commissioned copies. It's not the same. That holds true today. If you ever, I've got many copies of artwork by Da Vinci, Rembrandt, Caravaggio, Church, but they don't hold any of the magnificence of the originals. Copies can't do that. I mean, I'm glad to have copies, but the original artwork is very profound, and Peyton has lost this, and she goes, how can I live without these original paintings by her mother? Copies do not convey the subjective truth expressed in texture and brushstroke. Some things cannot be conveyed in a commissioned copy. For Peyton, this is the ultimate betrayal. For Peyton, this is second death. She loses her mother in a second death, an existential death, a death of the loss of depth of meaning that was represented by her mother's original artwork. So it's a horrible loss for Peyton to hear this from the attorney. To all that she had left. Peyton says of her mother's original paintings, the paintings were all that I had left. Loss takes on a new dimension for Peyton. Now she has the loss of her mother, the loss of her mother's expression of artistic truth, and now, genuinely, a loss of self. Loss has penetrated to her very heart. Loss has penetrated to her very soul. Now from here we go to block 3, and I love the way that Reine has concluded this chapter. You know, it's an introduction. Basically, chapter 1 is an introduction. We're introduced to the characters. We're introduced to the existential dilemma. And it has a very powerful conclusion. Let's go to block 3, the power of a foretold future. Peyton is left searching. She says, what will become of me? She finds herself on the terrace. I love this. The terrace is not inside the estate. It's not purely outside the estate. It's like an internal externality of the estate. She collapses to her knees, and she's left reading the vein light like script on the marble floor of the terrace, searching for the answer primarily to herself. What will become of me? We have in that scene, try to visualize that scene. In that scene, we have the existential dilemma brought to its knees. The existential dilemma is brought to its very knees. Peyton has been sold to ruin by her father. That's the way that Peyton words it. I have been sold to ruin by her father's extravagance, by her father's self-centeredness, and yet she declares, she truly does, that she loves her father profoundly. Now, that he did teach her how to live on a budget during his lifetime, but she does make the statement she still loves her father profoundly. So we end up with a declaration. We end up with a declared goal, and Peyton declares not to lose it all. Peyton must remain strong, and I love this. She says that she must remain strong to preserve the heart of the estate, which is a 1671 adobe structure, which is still a part of the estate. And she says she must preserve, she must reaffirm, she must rediscover, and be strong to reclaim the heart of the estate. The heart remains significant and still filled with existential content for her very, very life. This is so similar to the way that Bergman opens a film. I just love the existential power of this chapter 1. It's an introduction. We're introduced to the existential dilemma. Peyton finds herself on the edge of a precipice, looking down into a deep, dark abyss. She's completely existentially shattered and has suffered a loss of her mother, the loss of her mother's expression of artistic truth, and genuinely a loss of self. So this opening chapter is very reminiscent to me of the way that Bergman always opens his films. And so I love this first chapter. I'm really looking forward to chapter 2. But I am going to approach this very slowly, chapter by chapter. And I kind of look, after chapter 1, I kind of look at Reine as the Bergman. I just nicknamed her the Bergman of Arizona. Very, very powerful chapter 1. And I'm excited to see how this first novel, it's amazing to me that this is a first novel, to see how this first novel unfolds, how this existential dilemma, how Peyton, how will she find resolution? How will she find self, I should say, how will she reclaim self-identity? And where can she find that existential depth that has been forfeited for commissioned copies? That's horrible, horrible. Extreme tragedy in the very first chapter. More importantly, we get an introduction to existential drama, which is extremely, truthfully, I mean this, I'm very impressed with the way the introductory chapter is begun. It's very powerful, and we're already feeling empathy for Peyton. We're already identifying with Peyton's search for existential selfhood, for existential identity, for hope, for this chance to reclaim that which she has lost. Very important chapter 1. That's going to wrap up chapter 1 of Reine's She Died, Then Showed Me. Next lesson, we're going to take chapter 2. I'm going to try to take each chapter as a lesson in itself. So we'll take on chapter 2 next, but very powerful beginning in Samar Reine's She Died, Then Showed Me. See you next time when we take up chapter 2.